I will never sleep again. I will never sleep again.
Welcome to Never Sleep Again.
Your source for sci-fi and horror movie reviews.
I'm Jonathan,
And I'm Veronica.
and today we will review 2021's Own by M. Night Shyamalan.
So this was an interesting one.
Very.
Right?
Very
I actually
interesting.
really liked the premise, but we'll get into that a little later. I feel like this movie was definitely fits into the sci-fi category,
It had some horror elements,
right?
but I definitely would classify this one as a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And for those of you who haven't seen it yet, here is your opportunity to step away from the screen because there will certainly be spoilers. So we start off with this movie with a family, and we're not really introduced to them. We're just kind of thrown into the
Right.
family dynamic.
Just thrown right into their car. They're just driving right into the resort.
Yep. So they're driving to a resort. They're on an island. They're on vacation. And we don't know really where they are. We just know, it's a tropical paradise, it appears to be. They're in the van, taking them to the resort. They get out of the van, and there's hotel staff waiting there for them. Just, everyone's wearing smiles. They all appear to be happy. The family is happy. And they get out of the van, and the hotel staff provide them with some beverages.
Yeah, with some cocktails. I just gotta say that the staff just looked weird right off the bat. Like, it was just, if you're looking for a foreshadowing, it's the weird staff.
Definitely, yes. Yeah, the plastered smiles, I don't know. It just seemed a little fake, but the family buys into it. They're happy to be there. The staff is happy to see them, and the parents. First of all, the family is comprised of a mother, whose name is Priska, a father whose name is Guy. Yeah, and then there's a preteen daughter whose name is Maddox, and then Trent. He's the youngest, and so. The parents are greeted with these cocktails, and they're so happy. Oh, we have your drink choices from, I guess they chose their drinks before they arrived. And so they provided them with their beverages, and off they went to get settled in. And so over the course of time, we're kind of introduced to some other characters that are also there on the resort.
Right.
And just to kind of run down the list of characters, we have the family of four, which we mentioned. We have a married couple.
Yeah, Jaren or was it Jaren?
Jaren.
Yeah. We had Jaren and Patricia.
Yeah, Jaren's a nurse. Patricia's
she's a psychologist.
Yeah. Yep. And
they were cute.
They were cute. I did like them. And we also have Charles, who's a surgeon, and his wife Crystal, and their daughter Kara, and also Charles's mother and their dog. Their dog joined them on the trip. And then we also have a couple of other characters.
Yeah, there's a character named Midsize Sedan.
I cringe. I cringe at this one. I guess it's a joke.
It's a
based on
he's a rapper.
Yeah.
He's a famous rapper, and his name is Midsize Sedan. And the less said about that, the better.
Yes. So we're kind of introduced to most of these characters while the family is at the resort, just kind of settling in. And one of the hotel managers, or just one of the staff there, mentions that, oh, hey, there's this great beach that's not too far from here. It's kind of more secluded. We don't have many visitors that go there. It's beautiful, gorgeous views. You'd love it. So they decide to head out there, and they travel out to this beach along with Charles and his family. They travel out there. Earlier, we saw that Midsize Sedan was actually already at this beach.
Yeah. He was already in this secluded area when we were introduced to him.
Right. Yep.
And he's there with a woman.
Yeah, unknown. We don't know her name. But yeah. So they get to the beach, And you know, the driver who is M. Night Shyamalan.
Just in the movie.
Just in the movie.
And just continues to be in the movie
Yeah.
from there on, so you can have fun with that.
Yep. Well, he hands them like these 2 great big picnic baskets. They're like really big, filled with food, and they're like, "Oh, this is a lot of food." And he's like, "Oh, well, you got kids, so they're gonna need food."
Yeah, kids eat a lot of food.
Yeah,
he said.
kids eat a lot of food.
And you have 3 of them.
Yes.
is what he said. So Trent starts doing a little bit of exploring of the secluded island by himself, and then he comes across a dead body, and so he lets his parents know, and then there's a little bit of commotion. Charles, the surgeon, starts to believe that mid-sized sedan has killed whoever this person was. So around this time is when the children start to look visibly older.
Yes, as the title of the movie suggests.
Old. So around the same time, and here's the part where things just really pick up, which I think is a good point in the movie, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The movie, the action, I guess, starts to pick up in the movie. The kids are visibly older, and then Charles's mother has a heart attack, and she dies.
Yeah.
And so now people are just starting to panic because, well, these kids are supposed to be like 5 and 6 years old, just about. And one of them was 10. Right?
Yeah, one of them, I believe. Maddox was 10.
Maddox was 10 years old.
Trent
is 6.
Kara was like 5.
And Kara was like 5.
Yeah.
So Trent's like 6, Kara's 5, and Maddox is 10 years old.
And can I say though that the little kids in this movie are adorable? They're so cute
and hilarious.
Yes, and hilarious.
Like I forgot the other kid in the movie.
Idlib. Idlib, yeah.
With his conch collection.
He's gonna come in a little bit later. We'll talk about
him.
Yes, but they were so cute.
Yeah, all of them, and funny.
Mm-hmm.
And so, now people are starting to freak out, and they're trying to figure out a way off the island. They try to take
off the beach, right?
Off the beach, yeah, trying to get off the beach, and so they're starting to explore these caves that they find as a way to try to get out. However, people start to just black out and go into a type of coma, and then they wake up right on the beach.
Yeah.
So that's out. So that's not a way for them to get out.
They can't escape. But, Charles's suspicions about mid-sized sedan continue to grow, and he actually tries to attack him. He does attack him. He has a knife, and he slices mid-sized sedan's cheek, and everybody's standing there watching this, and it just immediately heals. And they're so shocked. They don't understand what's going on.
Some sort of parlor trick.
Yes, that's what one of them said. And it's, we have all these different things happening. That was Charles, right? Yeah. Yep. And so we don't understand quite what's happening. They don't, rather. The audience got some inklings as to what's going on. Yeah. And so, around this time, Priska actually had been diagnosed with a tumor in her midsection. And so, she was mentioning it, and they noticed that it was actually growing. They could see it visibly growing outwardly from her side. And so they had to basically conduct surgery right then and there. Charles, who is a surgeon, he went ahead and he was able to remove it, and it was so huge. It was really gross.
Right. He was able to do it with the help of Jared, and the other adults on there, but the problem was they're trying to cut it, and it keeps healing rapidly, just like the cut on mid-sized sedan's face that we saw earlier. And so they have to hold it open just for him to get the tumor out just in time.
Right.
And they say it was the size of a cantaloupe.
Yes.
So around this time, they start to realize that the way time is affected on this beach is that 30 minutes equals to 1 year in actual time, and their cells are rapidly aging. Several things start to happen from this point on. Trent gets Kara pregnant.
Oh, they were just playing.
And they were like,
He says, Mom, we were just playing.
playing.
I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, but I kind of saw that one coming.
Yeah.
Because it showed the two of them in a tent.
They were left unattended.
Yeah, left unattended, and they're laying there and they're just kind of talking to each other about the events that are happening. The adults are just on the beach, like just kind of like further down the beach, discussing ways to get off the beach. And so they're just kind of talking, and like, I don't know, he touches her or whatever, and then we don't see them.
We don't see them for a few minutes.
No. And then the next time we see them, they're eating food. They're outside of the tent and they're eating food, and we just see the back of Kara. And by this point, they look about maybe like 17, about 18
and 17 is what they look about.
And they start walking towards the other adults, and we just see the back of Kara, we see the back of Trent, and they look horrified.
Because Kara is visibly pregnant.
Yes, they show the front of Kara, and she's just all, she has a bump, and it's just like being
But I would
carried
like
in the
to
front.
point out that we saw her bump from, some feet away, at least 20 something feet away, and as she walks to them, you could see that in the time it takes for her to walk over to the adults, that her stomach is even bigger than it was when she was some feet away from them. Just a matter of seconds.
Yeah, now that was pretty trippy, pretty freaky.
Yeah.
I thought, yeah. So that's what happens, and they get over there, and the parents are, of course, understandably freaked out, and they, because now they understand how time works on the beach, they know she's going to give birth like any minute.
Very soon.
And so, they're freaking out. The kids start freaking out, and they're crying, and Trent is like...
He's like, I'm gonna marry her. This kid is like screaming and crying, and he's just shouting at his parents. He's saying, I'm gonna marry her, and we're gonna get a condo, and I'm never gonna yell at her.
Yes, because what we learned... while the family was staying at the resort, the parents, Priska and
they're having some
and
problems.
Guy,
some trouble.
They've been having some trouble. They were actually previously going to separate, but they wanted to give the kids one last vacation before they broke the news to them. However, the kids did understand that their parents were having trouble because they could overhear them having arguments even during the trip. Well, they were having
arguments, right?
Yeah, even during the trip.
And just to have some clarity here, is that all the doors in the resort are see-through. It's just nothing but glass walls and doors. So the kids can just really just see them just going at it, just all in its full glory. And she's yelling and he's yelling. So the kids are fully aware.
They're fully aware. And so this has affected Trent, and he's like, I'm never gonna yell at her. And all this commotion, I know, it was cute. All this commotion happens. She gives birth to the baby, and within a matter of a few seconds.
Just a few seconds, the baby just dies because the type of care that it would have needed on the island, they couldn't give it that amount of attention.
No.
I think Patricia, the way she described it was that the baby died because it didn't have enough attention. Time moves too fast for an infant, so it just died of starvation.
Well, lack of attention.
Yeah.
I guess they weren't tending to it enough. I don't remember if they set the baby down or just what, but
there was nothing. No, they never set the baby down.
Okay.
The baby died right in Patricia's arms.
Okay.
So I think time just moved so fast that there was nothing they could have done.
Yeah.
They
so that was it.
Yeah.
And the baby died,
dies.
Within a matter of a short period of time, the baby actually disintegrates,
right?
Because it decomposed so quickly as well. So pretty trippy stuff.
Which had to be very disturbing for Patricia,
right?
For sure. And so things move on. People people are traumatized by that, but they have to figure out a way off of this island. And during that time, Charles actually, he becomes fixated with mid-sized Sedan again. Charles kills mid-sized Sedan
with a knife.
With
the same knife that he used to cut mid-sized Sedan's cheek.
Yeah. They didn't take the knife away from him after the first time he cut somebody.
Don't know why. With all these other adults around, they didn't decide to take that knife.
Well, I get it. Like, he redeemed himself with the surgery.
Oh, okay.
And then so they felt like they could trust him with a knife.
Maybe.
I'll try to be lenient with that. I still think it's stupid that they didn't take the knife from him. They should have taken it away and just thrown it into the ocean.
They really should have.
More on that later.
Especially because throughout this time, Charles's behavior has grown more and more erratic.
Right.
And we don't understand why just yet.
So now we have Jaren, the nurse, and he's getting frustrated. So he wants to try to see if he can swim around the rocks to go and find help and possibly bring them back, but he fails and he dies.
Yes, poor Jaren. Yep, he thought he'd be able to swim through the rough currents and the waves that are flowing onto the beach, and he did not make it. So his body washed back up on shore. Patricia is devastated, of course. And then shortly after this, Kara decides to climb up the rocks. It's like a cliffside almost, to see if she can somehow go over the rocks and get help, since they couldn't go through the rocks since they were blacking out earlier. And Kara proceeds to climb this tall cliffside, and Trent is trying to get her to come back. And Kara's also devastated because her baby just died. But Kara did not make it, and she falls, several feet down to the ground, and she dies, which is unfortunate. Trent is upset, and then we have someone else.
Patricia. Patricia herself has a series of very violent seizures.
Yes.
And she dies.
Yeah. We actually saw that we learned that she suffered from seizures back at the resort when we were kind of being introduced to some of the other characters. She fell on the ground, proceeded to have a seizure, and Jaren helped her. So did Charles. He came over, and that's when we learned about who he was. Right,
as he's a surgeon.
Yeah, and so she just has a series of seizures, and she dies. So a lot of deaths happening on this beach.
In a very short amount of time, just one after the other. And then they find a journal. They find a journal, and around the same time that they find a journal, they could see a camera. They could see a camera and a man standing next to the camera from... It really wasn't even that far away, though. It was okay. I mean, from where they were, it was kind of far, but it was close. But understand, he was close enough for them to really just see the outline, or I guess the silhouette of a man pointing a camera on a stand,
right? Like
pointing it right at them. So whoever it was, they just gave it away that they are watching them. I think this turns out to be M. Night.
It is. They do a close up on him. And it's M. Night. I'm so sorry. I'll talk about this later. For now, I'm just gonna laugh. So yeah, it's M. Night.
Yeah, it's M. Night. So shortly after this, Charles attacks Guy and
with the same knife.
With the same knife.
Did not get rid of that knife yet.
He attacks Guy and Priska with the same knife that he used to kill mid-sized Sedan with. Once again, I feel like they should have just taken it away from him and say, okay, listen, Doc, we're going to take this and we're going to keep it in a safe place. And whenever we need you to perform a surgery, you can have it back. And then when the surgery is done, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he could not be trusted with the knife. No.
Right. So
yeah.
So he's attacking Charles. Charles is attacking Guy and Priska. They have a fight, and Priska actually ends up killing Charles and saving Guy.
Yeah.
After this,
with another knife, because
Right.
earlier the kids had found some old utensils.
That's right. They found another knife
from the resort. They could see that they were from the resort. They were all rusted. And so she uses the knife to basically just infect him with the rust. And because of how time works on the island, you can see it slowly like moving through his body, and
Yeah, that was a little trippy.
yeah, and he starts to become affected by it, and he dies of poisoning.
Right.
Yeah.
And then so after this, we get our next death. That's Crystal. So Crystal dies of a calcium deficiency, and then shortly after, Priska and Guy both die.
Yep. So by this point, the sun is starting to rise because it's now like the next day.
Yeah.
And the only two that are left at the beach are Maddox and Trent. And
That's it.
yeah, that's it. And they have continued to have aged during this time. And now they appear to be about 50, right?
Middle age. 50, yeah.
Both of them. And so they don't look like children anymore. And they're just kind of reminiscing on their childhood. And Trent realizes that he never solved a puzzle.
That Idlib gave him.
Yeah, Idlib, the little kid from the resort, whose uncle basically runs the resort, had given him a message to decode, and it was like a fun little game. And so, out of curiosity, Trent decides to decode this message, and this message actually helps both him and Maddox escape the beach.
Because
because the message says, my uncle doesn't like the coral. And I know, I wonder why. So they both look at each other and they're like, okay, let's swim through the coral. So they start swimming through the coral. And during this time, the man who had been watching them, M. Night,
It was M. Night?
It was M. Night.
It was M. Night?
Please. It was M. Night. Oh
I didn't know. I didn't know it was M. Night.
Oh my gosh. So he's watching them and he doesn't see them surface once they go under the water to swim through the coral. And so he just assumes they died. And so he goes back to the resort where there's the headquarters or just a lab of the pharmaceutical company that actually runs and owns the resort. And we learn that they've been sending people to this beach intentionally. And, it's just a mysterious beach where cells age rapidly, more so than they do outside of the beach. So they've really been taking advantage of this. And they've been doing all these clinical trials in, days, whereas it would normally take years to test and develop certain pharmaceuticals. So, and they've been doing it against people's will. Right. So we find out that there's this kind of sinister undertone to, the circumstances surrounding the beach. And however, when we get to the pharmaceutical lab, everybody's just like so excited, because Patricia, we learned.
Well, they do give a moment of silence first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But then they just start.
Yeah, they give a moment of silence for the lives that were lost, and in the name of science. But then they're just like overjoyed because, Patricia's basically, when everyone arrived at the island, they were given those cocktails, and in those cocktails, unbeknownst to the guests, were drugs that the pharmaceutical company was testing. And so Patricia's drug actually worked, and she went 16 years without a seizure. Yeah, so, that was pretty impressive. She was prone to having seizures pretty often.
And violent ones.
Yeah, pretty violent seizures. And so they were so excited, and they talked about how, the drugs that their company is making are going to save like hundreds of thousands of lives and soon millions of lives. And it's like, that's wonderful.
And they clapped. Those
but
around them. They clapped.
What about these poor souls that were
that
just
they just
lost?
tortured?
Yeah, exactly. So meanwhile, we learned that Maddox and Trent actually did not die in the coral.
Right. We learned that they actually did not die. They escaped. And they actually show us, kind of a flashback a little bit of what I would presume to be, maybe 20 minutes ago in the movie?
I know.
Or something where it shows them swimming through the coral and actually escaping, which I think was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
I think it was a cool scene. I was glad they escaped. And one of the first things they do when they get out is they go to a police officer that they saw on the resort a little bit earlier, and they hand over to him the journal that they found.
Yeah.
And it had all these names of all these missing people who went missing because of this evil pharmaceuticals company.
Yeah.
And so he's on the phone with his people. He's taking pictures of the names. He sends over to them everything. And so we move forward in the story. We're coming to the end of the movie now. And so there's more guests being welcomed to the resort. And they're offering them drinks just as a now middle-aged Trent comes by and deliberately, accidentally knocks the drinks out of their hands. And as the lady's cleaning them up, he's all like, I want to take anything they give you.
Yeah.
I want to take anything they give you. And so the police show up and they arrest everybody.
Yeah.
And good.
Yeah.
Good. Oh, and little kid, Idlib, you could see him looking very disappointed in his uncle.
I know.
I just love that disappointed look on his face,
Yes.
though. He just looked like shame on you.
Yeah. So that's the movie Old. Very interesting concept.
Very.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
So what worked for you?
So what worked for me in the movie was, first I want to mention the cave scene with Crystal. This is where the horror elements really start to shine in the movie, and you can see her bones are being broken, but they're just healing up immediately. And so it makes it look like she's some type of monster coming after the kids, which I think they showed a little bit of that in the trailer, which made it look like there might be a monster on the beach with them. But when you see the movie, it's like, no, it's just Crystal.
Yes.
And the kids looked genuinely terrified. It was really, really good acting on the part of the kids there throughout the movie. And that's something else that worked for me, the acting from some kids on certain parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It was they really sold it for me. I liked the aspect of the rekindled romance between the husband and the wife. I felt like that gave them a good story arc.
That was nice. Yes.
Hey, yeah, they and not for nothing, but they had some competition for the cutest couple on the beach with Jaren and Patricia. So so they and they didn't just take it sitting down. They had to get cute themselves too. So I liked that. When they took out they removed Priska's tumor, and the way he was holding her, and she just kind of like, got that look in her eye. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
I was like, from that moment, I was like, oh man, they look like they got a new lease on life. Because I think that was her sickness was a point of contention for her. And she goes on to explain that to her daughter. She works in a museum, and she felt like she was going to be one of those people behind the glass at the museum. And so it was just the sickness taking a toll on her mind. She said she basically, in her own words, that she didn't recognize the person that she was back then. And even that was something that worked for me with the movie, where the way they use time to explain things, and although time sped up for them on the beach, some things that happened, the way they handled it was just how people handle it off a beach, or not in a situation like that, but just over time. You know, so if I make sense with that, so that worked for me. What worked for you with this one?
Well, you know, you mentioned some of the children's acting, and I would have to agree. One of the actors in particular,
standout.
Yeah, definitely. Alex Wolff. He was the one who played like the late teen Trent.
Right.
Yeah, the late teenage Trent.
Late teen. Kind of early adult.
Yeah, like early adult, late teen.
Right.
Yeah, his acting is always really good. We saw him in Hereditary. And just really, really great.
My Friend Dahmer.
Yeah, My Friend Dahmer.
Right, yeah.
Great young up-and-coming actor, and so I appreciated him in
He's
this
really
movie.
good.
Yeah, he's really good. The cinematography, I thought that was pretty cool. Pretty visually stunning at times too, like how they would have the camera pan like all the way around,
cool.
and like a single shot. Like that was really cool. Okay, Charles, I did and I didn't like his character because as we learn, each of the characters had a particular illness. And that was the reason why they were chosen to come to this island to begin with. They actually all like received like an all expenses paid trip there. And it's because of the particular illness that they had. And so like Patricia, she had like the seizures. Priska had the tumor, and so on and so forth. But Charles had like early onset dementia.
Right.
So he was, you know, he was becoming more and more erratic, and with his thoughts and the things he would talk about throughout the movie. And he seemed to have a real affinity for movies, and I thought that was hilarious.
He kept asking about. Was it 2 movies he asked about, or was there one particular movie that he
There
kept?
was one in particular that I remember. He wanted to know, he was asking everybody, did they know that Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson were in a movie together? And so he couldn't think of the name of the movie. He was trying to figure it out. And, you know, I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody help this man. He's going to keep talking about this movie. But even in the middle of Priska's surgery, he's like asking them.
At the very beginning, he's supposed to start to make the incision. And he's just like, does anybody know about this movie? It had Marlon Brando.
Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando. Both. Try again, doctor.
Really, really hilarious.
Does it again later. He's like, can we just stay on this subject, everybody? There was a movie with Marlon.
Yes, and everybody, it's like, it seems like he's about to mention something serious, and he just completely starts talking about the movie again.
No, that took me out.
Yes.
When I saw that. That took me out.
Great, like, addition of humor in like very tense moments. So I thought that was hilarious, and I thought that was
great.
you know, perfectly planned. I liked the fact that, you know, although weird, I like the fact that Trent got Kara pregnant, because it just, again, added to the panic of the situation, and it was just wild. And you know, I that kind of worked for me as well, you know, for those reasons. But yeah, so what didn't work for you with this film?
Well, what didn't work for me is that the pharmaceutical company is dumb. It's dumb because you didn't have to. Well, not only is it dumb, but it's pretty evil. They tricked people into, you know, coming there. Of course, everything paid. You know, people like free things, but they tricked people into going into this experiment against their will, in which they mean to keep the people there until they die. So I thought that was dumb. I think that people would have just, if people had known what the experiment was, I think people would have volunteered.
Right?
Right. I think they would have volunteered, especially somebody like Patricia, who's prone to having these really violent seizures. I think that someone like her would have wanted to try this medication. It seemed like it didn't have any other side effects or anything. The experiment, I agree with them, it was a success, but here's what's so dumb about it. It's they act as if they need to take this experiment through a lifetime. They want to find out how a medication works throughout a lifetime, and you just don't have to. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to do it. So doing it across a lifetime is dumb. Doing it against people's will is also dumb. It's illegal.
Yes.
It's dumb and illegal. They made it really easy for themselves to get caught. Somebody had a journal with all the evidence written down of like missing persons. Obviously, whenever that got caught or leaked or something, everybody's gonna everybody's gonna serve 3 life sentences in jail. So that didn't work for me.
Yeah.
It was dumb. Some character decisions in the movie were very dumb. We talked earlier about the knife. So we just saw we saw Charles, completely unprovoked, goes and cuts mid-sized Sedan's cheek, and he's bleeding, and everybody's just like, oh wow, and nobody takes the knife from him.
Nobody take the knife
ever.
ever.
Right. Then he kills mid-sized Sedan later, and okay, they take the knife, but they put it in a bag in front of him. They literally take the knife and put it in a bag in front of him. So so now he knows where it is. He knows where to get that same knife when he needs it, and he does. He does it again.
He got the knife easy.
He got the knife easily.
Yeah.
I thought that was also, that didn't work for me. Another thing that didn't work for me is Jaren swimming away. So understand, when Jaren tries to swim around the rocks, this is after mid-sized Sedan gets killed by Charles. I would never leave my wife on an island with a confirmed killer to try to swim across the rocks, especially after hearing earlier that somebody who tried to swim, somebody died out there swimming.
Yeah.
So I thought that was something dumb that they had the character do. The character was otherwise one of the more intelligent characters in the movie, so to take a smart character and make them do something dumb is always a bad move in my opinion for movies and shows.
Yeah.
And something else that didn't really work for me was the way all of their brains functioned. It seemed a little bit inconsistent, especially considering, really mostly with the kids. I'm sure you might have something to say about that too. Yeah. Where some of the kids, they started to act a little bit more age appropriate, but sometimes that was a little inconsistent. And there's one character in particular, I felt like they acted a little bit too young for the age. And I understand that mentally they were still supposed to be younger, but I saw some inconsistencies with that. Speaking of that, what didn't work for you?
Oh yeah, just to kind of tag on to what you're talking about right now, Maddox and the other children, like you said, there are clear inconsistencies, and they're the way they thought and the way they spoke and the way they behaved. It's mentally they're all supposed to be younger,
right? But
we see Trent and we see Kara as they age up into their late teens. They're talking like teenagers, and although some of the thought processes were a bit immature, they were still kind of maturing, whereas Maddox, who was already older than them before they started to age up, her speech, she still sounded like a child, the way she talked. she remained like maybe
Right.
like
And
late
she was
teens
older than
for-
them.
Yeah, she was older than them.
So it really didn't make sense.
Yeah, and she remained like that age for an extended period of time. She didn't really age up much until the next day.
Right.
And so that was just a little weird and kind of took me out of the movie a
little bit,
couple
yeah,
times.
it did,
yeah.
yeah.
And
More
so,
than M. Night being in it. Like,
okay, that's another. Okay, I get it. You know, it's fun to be in your own movie, and you know it's great that he can do that. But I am so sorry. I don't want to see M. Night in his own movie.
we still love you, M. Night.
We
if you're
do.
watching it, just
You
know
know?
we really do love you.
Yes, but it really does like kind of take me out of the movie entirely, and it just makes me laugh seeing him there. Like, oh my gosh, okay. You know, I'm no longer in the world of old. I'm watching an M. Night Shyamalan movie. That's what this is.
Yeah.
So,
As a matter of fact, before we go any further, do you like M. Night showing up in all of his movies? Do you like him just doing a brief cameo? What are your feelings on this? Let us know in the comments.
Let us know. Yeah. So, you know, that's kind of funny. That was kind of funny throughout the movie. We kept seeing shots of M. Night, and I honestly could have done without it in this film. What else? Oh, you mentioned Jaren trying to swim.
Yeah, that was dumb.
And, you know, yeah, it was very dumb. And just like you, some of the character decisions I thought were really disappointing. Okay, so they only ever talked about swimming on the left side of
right, yeah,
of
I
like
noticed
the
that.
cove
I noticed that.
to kind of swim out and around the rocks and try to swim along the coast of the rest of the island until they can get to another beach. And on the left side, it is very it's kind of treacherous water. There's a strong current. There are all these waves. However, every time they showed us shots of the right side of the beach, it was so calm and peaceful. And I'm like, why is no one ever talking about swimming out on the right side of the beach? It didn't make much sense to me. I do know, however, when they were filming this, there were some pretty treacherous conditions at times because they filmed it in the Dominican Republic.
Right.
And they did this during hurricane season. And so a hurricane actually came through and destroyed some of the sets and they had to be rebuilt. So I don't know if maybe they filmed the water like shortly after one of those hurricanes or shortly before while the water was really choppy. And then the other scenes where we see the right side of the beach, you know, where it's nice and calm, maybe it was after the storm passed through. I don't know. But it really made it look like they weren't really considering all of their options.
Right.
So that kind of bothered me. You know.
Yeah, they didn't really pay the right side any mind. The waters were much more calm than the left side.
Yeah.
And the left side seemed like there was like rocks and everything. It seems like even if there wasn't any rapid aging going on, that you could just die against the jagged rocks.
Right, yeah, on the left side.
On the left side,
Because on the
yeah.
right side, again, it looked nice and smooth, clear waters. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever get an answer for why that happened. And then one more thing, it was just mid-sized sedan's name.
Yeah. They could have done a lot better than mid-sized
Yes,
sedan.
I get it. But, oh man, that was terrible. So, you know, after watching the movie Old, seeing it in its entirety, what do you think you would rate this movie based off of our rating system?
You know, really going in, I thought I was going to give it a bargain bin. But I think there were kind of, when I weigh the things that worked for me and the things that didn't work for me, I say I would give this one mediocre. Stream it.
Yeah, honestly, I'd have to agree with you on that one. I went into this after seeing the trailer, like really excited and really looking forward to it. And I was let down a bit, but there were some redeeming points with the movie. So I would have to just kind of give it like a middle of the road, stream it. I wouldn't say it's worth going to see on opening day. Honestly, even if it was just at the theaters, I would say just, wait till it comes out on Netflix or HBO Max or something and just watch it in the comfort of your home. It'll be a nice little, dinner flick you can watch, from your couch. So, yeah. Yep, stream it.
Stream it. Well, that's our time today.
And as always, we want to give a very, very special thanks to Betamaxx and Vandal Moon for allowing us to use their song Never Sleep Again. It is awesome. Guys, please check out their music. We have some links down below in the description box so you can go check them out, purchase their music. You won't be sorry.
You won't regret it. You have been watching Never Sleep Again. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Veronica. Stay awake.